So I'm about to begin the project of replacing the window sills, and what you have to do is take out these brackets right here, and the window frame sits within it. These are just aesthetic, and if you look, I added some plastic wrap on the outside so that the water didn't come down the edges here. And there's probably going to be some rot of the interior, so I'm going to have to rip out all of the dry rot wood, damp soaked, whatever it is, and then put some wood in and then epoxy it in, fill the gaps. And on this side, it's going to be the exact same thing. All of these gaskets are going to get replaced, and then a U-channel that holds the glass is going to get replaced at all. And I bought 4 tubes of 4200 and then some window silling as well for the U-channel. So we're going to begin the process of taking out the windows. But for now, it's been leak free, and then over here the exact same thing. I'm going to wash these and see if they'll come out white, but if they don't, I'll probably get a seamstress to get some canvas and redo these in the exact same manner. But you can see that the gaskets are pretty nasty now. They probably haven't been replaced in the entire history of the boat, so we're probably looking at 1978, that's 22 plus 15, 37, 38-year-old gaskets in there. And then, depending on how well these clean up, I'm either going to scrub them and get them all nice and clean and shiny, or I may take them to a powder coater and have them refinished. But they're in pretty good shape as it is, but we can always look a little bit better. That's it. So I got the first window out, and it actually just popped right out. No problems, no epoxy, which, well, that's a bad sign, but it's not going to be a bad problem anymore. At least I didn't have to rip them out. But over here you can kind of see the plywood that was in there, and as you can see right here, it's totally delaminated. So that's probably, if it's not going to break out really easily, I may just put epoxy in there, tape up the sides and pour it in on the top and reseal that. But up here, let's see if I can fix there we go. It's in pretty good shape all the way around. But getting back down here again, you can see where it gets bad. It's totally gone out of here. It's like they ripped it out or if they didn't replace the windows. I don't think they really did. Looking at it, I can't tell if this is the original compound here. That was done later on. It doesn't look like it. I mean, it looks original. But it is still a little tacky, so it might be a redone job. But they didn't do a very good job. Mainly because there's just not enough on it. You have gaps, and it wasn't sealing the windows properly. Now, this side wasn't nearly as bad as this side over here. This is where most of the water came in. And you could see that once it gets down in between the window and between the two pieces of fiberglass, well, the water slips down in between, and then it comes out the point of least resistance, which is right there, that bolt hole, and then it was coming down the interior sides there. So we might have to reseal or rebed some deck fixtures, which I planned on doing anyway, but I can't wait to actually get all this stuff ripped out of here and get these cleaned up. They haven't seen really good condition in a while, it looks like. And then this is the interior fascia, which holds the window in. There's nothing mounted on this side, it's just epoxy. But they didn't do any sealing on the inside, and I'm not so sure you have to. But man, I really would like to fill this in, just so that if there's ever a leak in the future, I don't have to worry about water getting down on the inside here. Another thing I noticed while I've been looking at this is this isn't flat. It should be. So I might have to put something backing in there to get it to recontour its shape to be flat, and then fill in the gaps with epoxy as well. And then I guess really it's going to come down to finding the thickness I want to make it uniform all the way around with epoxy or with plywood. But there's not really much I can do to dig this out. I mean, it's maybe 1/4 of an inch, and you know, I can scrape and knock stuff out of the way, but I don't know if there's a way that I could get it out. I'm not going to be able to get any fixtures down in there to suck all of it out with like a shop vac. So it might just have to be filled with epoxy. I'm going to look online to see what people have done on their own boats. But yeah, there's a gap all the way around, and I don't know if I'm comfortable with that, or it should have been squeezed together from the get-go. I'll have to look around, but you can see even right here it's kind of uneven, and I don't know what they've done in there. Maybe somebody threw something in there that pushed it out, but I don't know if there's any way to get it shaped back short of sanding it down. But it would be hard to replicate this leather texture that they stamped all this fiberglass with, or whatever was in the mold. But I'm going to go ahead and clean all this up and then take a look at the outsides. But man, I don't feel much sealing on the outside, so they just didn't do a good job. No, it's just falling right off. Hey, at least it makes the restore job a little bit easier. So that's that. Work on all these other windows. So I've got 4 of the port lights out. This one's being a little tricky because the closet, or the hanging locker, these screws here are angled downwards, so you need a very short screwdriver in order to get it out. Otherwise I'm going to strip it. I already stripped one. Luckily it's just one of these cheap button ones. Just drill it out. But I can probably safely say that these have never been taken out of the boat, and that all these seals and gaskets are original. Mainly because they only added these where they could. I mean, I'm taking it where they could actually remove these screws. They weren't able to. There's really no way to get in there, because if you look, that angle still isn't tight enough, and that's a pretty short screwdriver. And I can try a short stubby one, but you're going to need so much torque on that, and I don't know if I can, with that small of a grip, if I can actually turn it. So these might have to be drilled out as well and just wrenched out with pliers after I could get the fascia off. So these will be a little bit of a challenge. I'm really not going to go through the whole charade of taking that entire wood out and dismounting all the halyards and stuff. I'm not getting into that. And over here, we'll go into the head. Head, my favorite place on the boat. Man, this needs a lot of work. These are all taken out. As you can see, it's rotted all the way through. There's nothing left. And this is slipped down, so this probably, the alignment changer, when they went to the factory, they left these pieces in to align the windows. That's my guess. So we'll have to figure out how we're going to do that. How we're going to shim everything to make sure that the windows go where we want them. And back on the main side, I'm working on, this is going to be the last window I'm taking out. This one, it's pretty well, there's nothing left in there. And I'm thinking that if you look, these are offset a little bit, and I'm thinking what happens is that you've got deck fixtures and mast supports that are here, and they probably tightened them up over the years as the wood is eroded, so there's not as much of a gap as there used to be. So I'm going to have to end up loosening all this stuff before resealing the windows with epoxy, or at least the gaps. Just pour epoxy down in there. And the same thing over here. And it needs to be done anyway. They have to be rebedded because those are leaking too. So that's it. A little bit of work left over on that one. I wanted to show you this window here. So this is by far the worst one I've seen. The gasket is totally rotted away, or at least shrunk over the years, to where it either left a gap, or when somebody went and redid this 10 years later or something, they ran out of material and they just left a gap. So it's one of the two. It either shrank with age or ran out, or for some reason someone cut it out, but I can't believe that's the case. And I can't believe Catalina would actually leave a gap in there, so more likely it just shrank over the years. Probably because this was facing the sun for years. So this is the last main window, and then that son of a bitch, we'll get it out eventually. And then here's my stack of everything that's going to the house. And get them all cleaned up. Send all of the aluminum off to a powder coater, have them resurfaced, and then do all the interior work. And since I'm going to paint the interior and the exterior, I'm probably going to go and buy a pint of paint and just do the interior for now while I have access to it. That way I don't have to tape directly onto the aluminum when I'm painting the rest of the cabin. So lots of work to be done. That's it. So these are the frames and a window from a Catalina 27. This one specifically in 1978. And I'm going to teach you how to strip it so that you can put in new gaskets. It's a lot of gaskets. So you just want to put it in face down so that you can access the screws, 2 on each side that hold the frame together. There's a little piece of metal that has 2 holes in it that close them in. And you have the old channel here, and we'll get to work. So if you look at the window here, you have 2 screws here. These connect 2 sides of the frame together. So you have the top half and then a bottom half. And on the back side, once I take it apart, you'll see, there's a small piece of joining metal that holds these 2 things together. It's rather small. It's about 1 inch long, maybe 1/4 of an inch wide, and 1/8 of an inch deep. Just a little block of aluminum that these 2 screws hold into. And I'm going to go ahead and get these unscrewed. Just a word of warning, I've done all the other windows so far, so this was my last one. But these screws were put in rather tight, so they're right up against the aluminum. And in some cases, when they screwed them in, they went into the aluminum frame. So it might take a little work to actually get these out, but just push hard and they'll come out. The worst you can do is strip the backing plate. But once these are set in, it's not going to matter as long as, and worse, you know, you could always re-tap it. But I wouldn't worry too much. I haven't stripped one yet. So I've got 3 of the screws taken out. I'm going to just show you what you can expect when you're taking this out. If I can hold my hand still enough. There we go. If you can see, it's in there pretty tight, and I don't want to strip it, so I'm going to push with all my force. I have it in a laundry room sink, so I can push into the corner. I'm not going to damage it. You'd have to put a lot of force into this thing to do it. So I'll just put my entire body weight on it. And there it cracks. There we go. Not the window, the seal. This thing hasn't been taken apart in 38 years, so I'm not shocked. Alright, the 4th screw is out. So now what we're looking at is all of the hardware has been removed, and you have an interior gasket here. And this one's in pretty bad shape. If you can see, let me see if I can find it. On some of these, they had shrank over the years, and where the joint is, there's only 1 joint on each one. this had opened up to as much as an inch, so it really wasn't doing much good. This piece is on the inside, and it's mostly cosmetic, so you don't see the channel and it doesn't collect dust. It's a clean surface you could wipe off. This one looks like hell, so I'm glad I'm going to have the opportunity to replace it, clean it up inside the cabin. So you want to go and remove this, and this just sits right in there. Now I have like a sharp pointy object. This is for, you know, engraving stuff. Anything will work. Flathead screwdriver could get in there. You just pry it up, and then we could just pull it out. It's as simple as that. And into the trash that one goes. So you've got that removed, and then you have other things here. So if I could stop blocking the camera, you have this seal right here. It's a really small bead. Let's see if you can zoom in here. Oh, I guess I brought some animals in. That needs to be loosened up, so I'm just going to take my sharp edge, and you don't want to scrape into the glass, but man, this angle just doesn't work. You want to kind of break that, so don't hit the glass, you don't want to scratch it, but just work your way around the entire edge. It takes all of 10 seconds to do. And then on the other side of the window, the exterior side, flip this over, you have the exterior seal. So that one, as you can see, it's pretty dry rotted. This is going to come off really easily, and just do the same thing. Just take a sharp object and just score it so that it's not sticking to the window. We're trying to separate the frame from the window. And this stuff is just going to fall apart. There you go. And then in some cases you could peel it, but it'll break off. It's very, very brittle. So I'm going to go ahead and break these two seals here, and then we'll take this thing apart. Well, there's definitely an ant colony living on the inside of this window. So, you know, if you have old windows and they're leaking a little bit, just go ahead and rip them out. The repair kit on Catalina is $100, and then I think an additional $40 for an extra couple of tubes of window sealant and some 4200. Not a huge investment, and it's going to look really good, and it's going to be functional. So I've got all of the sealant broke. So it's all ripped out of here. You can see all the sealant is gone. This one actually took about 2 minutes to do, but it's not too difficult. There's not a lot holding this on. So now I'm going to break apart the window, and it can be tough, but basically you're just going to have to pull apart. That was a little bit, and then if I pull a little bit more, I've got to set the camera down for this one. There you go. The frames pull apart. And don't forget, these are in two different sides, so you're not going to do any damage by ripping them apart like that. Once the first one comes off, then the second one's pretty simple. This is the U channel that, this is what really seals the window. And it's in really bad shape. I mean, this thing is a mold factory. So it gives you an idea of how much water was getting in and whatever else organic material that, you know, was rotting in there. I mean, rubber doesn't, not this rubber anyway, it doesn't rot. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this off, and then we'll pull some U-channel off. So when I talked to you earlier about the 4 screws, these are what the screws plug into. So this is the joint. There's 1 screw per side, and then this little thing here. Not too big. Like I said, it's about 1 inch long. made out of aluminum, and this is what the screws go into. And they're not really, I mean, it held. It's not going anywhere. But you don't want to lose these. So you could decide to put one of the screws in, or if you want to mark these, because they're not going to be the same for every window, mark where you took them out of on each window so that you don't have to go through and try and figure out where all 12 of these things actually go. So that's that. Now we'll get to some U-channel. So on the window, it's wrapped with U-channel, which seals the window. And it's got one joint. And once you did it, it just comes straight off. So not much holding it on. It's just falling off. Into the trash can. And that's what you're left with. So you've got one side of the frame, another side of the frame, glass, and then in the earlier part of this video you saw all the interior frames. And that's it. So we'll get to I'll show you the new gaskets and what kind of sealant Catalina sent me. So this is the box that I got from Catalina. Now with the kit, you're going to get the U-channel that surrounds the glass. And then you're also going to get this flat channel for the interior side, the first gasket we ripped out. And there's enough in there to do all 6 windows if you have all 6 on opening aluminum frame windows in your boat. And then they give you one tube of Dow Corning 795 and another tube of 3M 4200. Ooh, this is 4,000. Huh, okay. And they recommended that you buy an extra tube a piece because people who do 6 windows as opposed to 4 typically run out before they're finished with the project. And I'm doing 6 windows. So that's it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend the weekend cleaning these down. I'm not going to scratch them. I'm not going to sand them because the aluminum is anodized, and if you strip that off, then you're going to get pitting from the seawater. I don't want to mess with it. So I think what I'm going to do is clean them up the best I can. Well, I'll clean them all the way until they're spotless, and then nothing abrasive. And then I'm going to go ahead and have them powder coated so they'll look really sharp on the boat. They'll look brand new. And that's it. That's how you strip down a Catalina window.